Namaste, and I uh, wish you all and welcome all of you to this talk and this knowledge sharing that we have hosted by MIT IIKS. Today, Shri Hari and myself, Namratha, we will be sharing about the few of our insights and few of the things that we have been able to put together in the form of a paper. It is on the topic of how the youth can really be empowered and how impact and how the Narada Bhakti Sutras and Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are in fact gems of wisdom, not just at the thought level, but in fact in guiding their action and also their emotions. So let's just visit and see what we can learn and maybe share with each other through the session. I would like to start the session with an invocation to Mahavishnu and Patanjali Maharishi. So requesting all of us to join in the prayer. Oh, शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोतं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिराणतोऽस्मि। आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रातिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिम्। श्रीमते अनन्ताय नागराजाय नमो नमः। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। I would invite Shri Hari to introduce the topic and take it forward.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
All right. Namaste. My name is Shri Hari Vittal. I live in Chennai. And if at all I need to introduce myself, inevitably I need to speak of the community I draw from my inspiration, my strength, and my potential. And the community that I associate with and I'm part of is the Chinmaya Mission. I'm part of the youth wing of Chinmaya Mission, Chinmaya Yoga Kendra. And that's where it all started for me. The journey towards Indic wisdom, towards knowing more about myself, about the rich heritage that I possess as a matter of fact of being born on this land, and what further I could do with this knowledge for myself and for my immediate surroundings. And one of such initiatives is this whole attempt at this research, and we would like to just say that we are students, we are learning, and yet we have put together our thoughts and reflections as we are in this journey of learning, and we seek this opportunity, we look at this opportunity as a way to enrich this whole journey of learning. So with that, I would request Namratha to introduce herself.
Yeah, namaste once again. My name is Namratha. I am located here in the city of Mumbai. I grew up here and studied here. Though qualified as a chartered accountant about 5 years back, I think life had better uh, opportunities and possibilities in store for me. I was very lucky to find a sense of dharma and a sense of inner calling in the path of yoga, and that too in the T. Krishnamacharya tradition of yoga. I am very humble, and I was very humbled to be accepted at Ritambra Ashram, which is and which is the place where I'm studying from Shri Raghu Anantharam, who is my acharya. Um, any of our work in the space of yoga is mainly attributed to whatever little time I have been able to spend and understand yoga from him. As Shri Hari said, we are both learners. So this is just a small milestone in our path of endless learning. So with that in mind, we would like to share whatever we have put together.
And to add to that, we both come from fullness that we have experienced, in this reservoir or this ocean of knowledge that is IKS, that Indic wisdom. And it has translated into this constant quest of realizing our true potential. And both of us have been doing this through our own studies. I have been delving into the study of Bhakti Sutras, Narada Bhakti Sutras, and Namratha has been pursuing Patanjali Yoga Sutras. And when we were both studying a course at Rashtra, we used to share our learnings and reflections. And that was how it all started. We saw a lot of synergies and how one added for the other, and how both put together gave a more holistic picture. And it just added to our, dialogue and samvads. And what it started then has resulted in a research paper now, and we are excited to see what more it is going to lead ahead. Having said that, we both have our own initiative called the Vedic Pond, and in that, our mission is to reawaken the infinite potential in the next generation. Infinite potential inherent in the next generation. So that's where we are. And I would request Namrata to quickly introduce the framework which we have used to go about this
Yeah,
research.
yeah. So it will also not be fair on my part if I do not acknowledge the rich source of knowledge that I have received already from MIT, and I'm continuing to receive from MIT. In fact, this research paper has been inspired by the the courses that we are learning here. In fact, and now that when we are going towards the structure, so as we have studied, Vastu and Vastu are both very, very essential in any form of Indic knowledge systems. Vastu is the content, and Vastu being the form or the structure in which that is organized. So, talking about the way in which we kind of approached this research paper, um, while the paper has been organized based on some principles, some very basic principles from, say, our Shastra Parampara. However, this particular presentation, we have just tried to distill it using the structure that is usually followed in yoga and Yoga Sutra. So, yoga typically looks at four components. It believes at Heyam. Heyam refers to our current form, our current place where we are today in the here and now. It refers to this place as an acceptance and a recognition of a form of dukkham. That is, I am able to know that I am in dukkham, or the context or the surrounding in which I am is in dukkham. But it doesn't stop just at that. It also talks about Hanam. It talks about that there is an aspirational state that I would like to acquire through my study and through my practice, and of course through grace. So, knowing the end point or knowing the milestone to which one would like to go to, also being cognizant of where one is at the moment. Both are held together in this form, in this form of study. And how do I know why am I in Heya? The root cause of this Heyam is referred to as Heya Hetu. There may be multiple causes. There is no one-to-one cause, or there is not a sense of, a one-to-one mapping or any of that. There may be a list of causes or, multiple things that are leading to the same thing. So Heya Hetu refers to the cause. And most importantly, the Hana Upayam. That is, what are the intelligent steps or what are the processes through which I can bridge the gap between my Heyam and my Hana. So this is the basic framework or the format in which we will be presenting our presentation. We can just move. Yeah. So recognizing what is our Heyam, not just in our personal quest, but also to kind of zoom out and abstract it at the level of any individual that we saw in today's time. We drew an inspiration from the Sankhya framework of the three forms of dukkha, which is the Adi Daivika, the Adi Bhautika, and the Adi Adhyatmika dukkha. That is dukkham that one experiences at the individual level by one's own causes, by things or by, say, attributes that are within oneself, is referred to as adhyatmika dukkha. Those which are present in one's surroundings because of one's interactions with one's immediate surroundings, referred to as adi bhautika. And ultimately Adi Daivika, those which the causes of which are largely unknown or because of what we call as Daivika factors. So as a matter of fact, we know that all the three forms of Dukkham exist for all of us. Today at the individual level, we know that depression, loneliness, ill health are just few but very, very deep rooted forms of Dukkham that all of us experience. At another level, conflict, interpersonal conflict among nations, conflict among, say, different forms of religions in that form of sense, that form of speaking, and also different forms of thinking are some ways in which we kind of understood interpersonal dukkham or our adi bhautika dukkham. And the most important, the planetary dukkham, that is because, say, in the form of global warming, in the form of, our complete disassociation with the environment. All of these are at the highest levels in today's times. And so we recognize that this is the starting point from which our study must begin. This is what we need to avoid, and how do we go about avoiding all these three things? Yeah. So we can go ahead. Yeah. However, we recognize that the root cause of all of these issues, if we could try and abstract it, what could it be? It is coming down fundamentally to two very intrinsic factors. One is the way in which these forms of dukkhams are being approached. It is being approached from a mind that seems to want to get quick fixes, a mind that is not sustainable. And so, in order to achieve or in order to reach an aspirational state, it will be important to change this very mind. And to change this mind, we need to see what is it that is informing these kind of things to the mind. So, well-being of the mind is of primary importance. But how is well-being being pursued, or how is well-being being understood in today's time? Well-being is just being understood as some form of fitness, some form of external physical exercise. We hear of emotional, awareness, emotional intelligence, emotional quotient, but it seems to be stopping just at that. Why do I need to be emotionally okay? Why do I need to be mentally okay? Why do I need to be physically okay? Is it just that itself? Is there no larger reason why I need to be physically or mentally okay. So the root cause is because there is no sense of larger goal because of for which these things need to be pursued. And the second root cause that we kind of figured or thought about it was there is an absence of integrated approach to well-being. So as I just shared some time back, very often we approach well-being and all of these endeavors in very what can I say, as a like a blindfold we keep. If I have to be physically fit, I only have to be physically fit, as though my mind has nothing to do with my body. If I have to be spiritually okay, I completely forget that my body is equally or as much spirit part of my spiritual existence as my deeper layer. If I need to be intellectually okay or intellectual well-being, I completely disassociate from the other. So, long story short, what I'm trying to share is the absence of an integrated form of well being or integrated approach to well being is some of the root causes of these issues. This is what we kind of gathered and would be liking to address through this.
Indeed. And so we felt in through our study, it was important to find out what are some indicators for success or for a meaningful life for youth. So we are doing this study from the theory we derive from the texts, from the studies we do with our acharyas, but at the same time, we are also practicing what we learn. And as we do that, we are able to see how it impacts us. So we being in the youth category, we saw it better to, look at this from the lens of a youth, from a youngster, and, approach the whole study from just that. So what is the indicators of a successful or a meaningful life for youth in today's world? What could be a larger purpose to achieve or for achieving, a successful or a meaningful life for a youth today? And what are some possible obstacles in attaining that state? So broadly speaking, these were a few things that we really wanted to look at. And so having said that, we thought it will be good to look at what, yes, we are looking at the role of Indian knowledge systems in our study, but what do other knowledge systems also say about this? So we, looked at some of the European scholars, scientists, especially who work in the stream of well-being. Some of them we refer to are Martin Seligman and his framework of PERMA. And then we also refer to Mihaly, who spoke about a flow state. Sonja, who emphasized on gratitude, practice of gratitude. We also refer to Ed Diener, who spoke of a sense of purpose, which was important to attain a better purpose or a better state of well-being. Dan Gilbert, he spoke of cognitive biases being a reason for, lack of well-being. And so removing these cognitive biases could help in attaining well-being for youth, and not just for youth, but for more. So in all of these studies, what we were able to see is that there was a very, very emphasized focus on the cognitive ability of a human, and also the meaning making across all the frameworks and researchers and scientists we read. We found that everyone was speaking of meaning. That was one thing that was common. And so there was something to do with meaning making that could be, hindering or could also be helping, attain well-being for anybody. So having said that, what was our Uttara Paksha? What is IKS saying?
So it is very essential to know what Purva Paksha is also saying, and at the same time also hold what our own Paksham is. So in order to gain an understanding of what IKS is really looking at for what is well-being, how is it understood, how is it practiced, we refer to NBS, Narada Bhakti Sutra, as well as Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So in Narada Bhakti Sutra, the ultimate form of a purposeful and meaningful life in a person, in any individual, is referred to that when a devotee comes in experience of his immortal nature or the infinite bliss that he already is. And how is this done? This is done through an inward looking endeavor that is in the form of bhakti, and all of the practices that are explained in the Bhakti Sutra. So what is the Uttara Paksha telling us? The Uttara Paksha is telling us that our highest goal is not just well-being for our own self. Our highest goal is in fact to become one with something that is larger than ourselves, to become one with our own divine potential which already exists. So we don't need to become something else which we are not already. We just need to remove the layers of avidya through our practices. So this is one key insight that we received from here. And from Patanjali Yoga Sutra, what we also derived was yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So well-being is being understood or is being attributed to the cessations of the fluctuations of the mind. However, it doesn't stop just at that. Chitta vritti nirodha is done only through deha vritti nirodha. So there is no sense of separation or there's no sense of distinction in that sense between mind, mental body, emotional body, and the physical body. So here we see a complete holistic form of understanding of well-being. And of course, through the process of Ashtanga Yoga, we will come to it a little bit further. We understand how truly this is being an integrated form of pursuit. It's an integrated and holistic pursuit. So with this, we can move forward. Yeah.
So having said that, what is an aspirational state, Hanam, that one could reach, one could aspire to reach rather? So this we derived from Narada Bhakti Sutras, especially from a section called Kahatarati Mayam. It is specifically from the sutras 46 to 50 in Narada Bhakti Sutras, and speaks of 12 attributes of one who has crossed Maya and one who has achieved the highest potential of oneself, of divinity rather. So what it includes is Sangam Tyajati, Mahanubhavam Sevate, Nirmamo Bhavati, Viviktasthanam Sevate, Lokabandhum Unmulayati, Nistraigunyo Bhavati, Yogakshemam Tyajati, Karma Phalam Tyajati, Karmani Sanyasati, Nirdvandvo Bhavati, Vedanapi Sanyasati, Kevalam Avachinna Anuragam. So let me quickly see if I could, say what is it meaning for each of these. So Sangam Tyajati is to drop any attachments with the objects of the world. And Mahanubhavam Sevate is to live the values and teachings of one's master. Nirmamo Bhavati is to free oneself from self-centeredness. Viviktasthanam Sevate is to value silence and one's own company. Lokabandhum Unmulayati is, emphasizing on healthy contact with the world of objects, thoughts, and emotions. Nistraigunyo Bhavati is to be aware of one's own compulsive tendencies and work on dissolving them. Yogakshemam Tyajati is the lack of urge for unbridled consumption and preservation of what's already acquired. Karma Phalam Tyajati is to free oneself from anxiety for the results of action. Karmani Sanyasati is to drop egocentric actions. Nirdvandvo Bhavati is to be free from the play of the opposites. Vedanapi Sanyasati is to be free from dogma and unintelligent subjugation of one's own thinking. And what I really caught on to in all of these attributes is the 12th one, which is Kevala Avichinna Anuragam, which is to say unbroken, steady flow of devotion. But how we are looking at it also is to develop unbroken, steady flow of commitment towards a higher purpose. And a very interesting metaphor or an analogy that Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya gives is that of Taila Dharavad. Just as how one pours oil from one vessel to another, how it flows unbroken in one stream, if one could rest and establish one's mind on one purpose, then one attains that in its completeness. So this was what we were able to reflect from what Narada ji has said, and also what from our own studies of other various texts. And so that was not what just bhakti speaks about, but yoga also has a similar perspective.
Yeah. So, like what Shri Hari has shared and what Narada Bhakti Sutras are speaking of, we felt these are very beautiful aspirational states. The ability to hold one's mind and attention on something larger than oneself, to be able to do all of these things and be in this to live life in this manner. These are end states. However, we also are very much cognizant of our first life, our Heyam's life. We know that we are not in that end state in this moment, and we know that these are IKS as such is not something to be practiced and studied for a different locum. It is for this locum. It is this life needs to be lived, and this life needs to be fully lived, and one's potential needs to be fully achieved in this life. So how do we go about doing that? Sri Nathamuni, in his Yoga Rahasya, he has very categorically stated in one of the, I'm not able to quote the exact sutram, but he has very categorically mentioned that Ashtanga Yoga, which has been enunciated by Maharishi Patanjali, is in fact Bhakti Yoga. So it is through the practice of Ashtanga Yoga that we become and we get more and more established in Bhakti. This beautiful connection that Sri Nathamuni has made for us is basically where we were able to find as the bridge between where we are and where we wish to be. So Ashtanga Yoga, I think most of us would be very much familiar, but I could just quickly share about it. Ashtanga Yoga are the 8 limbs of yoga, or the 8 there's no other way. There's the 8 angams. They are not to be understood in a form of a progressive or a linear form of practice. Just like how Vedangas are there, each angam is equally important. Without one, you can't practice another. So in Ashtanga Yoga, there is Yama. Yama refers to how we are able to interact with the world, our surroundings, in a way which is meaningful for ourselves and the surroundings. Then there is Niyama. Niyama is how we are able to interact and how do we maintain ourselves. How do we achieve well-being and how are we able to be in the best form of our own self? Niyama. Yama, Niyama. Asana. Asana is how we are able to keep our body in the best form. This is done through postural and exercise forms of activity. Pranayama is how we are able to really do a breath control. This is again an important practice. Then there is Dharana. Dharana is the ability of the mind to direct its attention to one in question of inquiry. And then Dhyana is when the same mind which has taken up the dharana is able to go further and further in that form of inquiry. And ultimately, samadhi is something that happens. It is through grace and through Guru Anugraha that happens. And we are able to very intellectually observe that maybe samadhi state is a state where one is in union with something larger than oneself, which is basically how we are equating it to bhakti, as also mentioned by Shri Nathan. So we could, at this point of time, like we also shared before, um, we know that we are not there, and we know that there is a long way, possibly several lifetimes, for us to reach there. So as much as it is important to hold the aspirational state in our mind, we also need to know what is it that is blocking us from reaching this place. So very beautifully explained antarayas in the Yoga Sutra. So Yoga Sutra speaks of 9 Nava Antarayas, or obstacles, that that are between oneself and our chosen path, or our samadhi state. The first one is Vyadhi. So there are 9: Vyadhi, Dhyana, Samshaya, Pramada, Alasya, Avirati, Bhranti Darshana, Alabdha Bhumikatva, and Anavasthitatva. There are 9. First one we saw, it was speaking about Vyadhi. Vyadhi is the absence of wellness, which is illness or disease. When we are in disease or illness, we naturally cannot even uh, think or think of anything else, having spiritual pursuits and all of that is very far-fetched when we are in a state of Vyadhi. So this is a very, like, most biggest obstacle. Dhyana. Dhyana is the absence of motivation. So one of the things that Acharya would tell us is dhyana is when we don't find motivation to even wake up in the morning. We don't find motivation to wake up in the morning and do something useful for today. So that is an indicator of dhyana having come into us. Samshaya, when we are not having conviction in doing anything, we are doing everything with a sense of tentativeness. We are doubting ourselves. We are doubting the intentions of others. We are not able to have a firm sense of, conviction, and we are too much into analysis paralysis. We have noticed this a lot of times. Yeah. Then there is pramada. Pramada is a sense of carelessness and overconfidence, that I know it all and I don't care. And so because of that, naturally there is a depletion in an attentiveness, because one feels that one knows it all. This is a very, very, well observed Antaraya. Just wanted to take a second and say that these are not just applicable to spiritual seekers, but these are applicable to everybody, all individuals, and especially we have been observing these in the youth of today. We ourselves, not excluding ourselves from this. Pramada, alasya. Alasya is a sense of fatigue or, laziness. There is a distinct drop of energy. There's no sense of prana within the being. So these are all indicators of alasya. Avirati. Avirati is this impatience. Everything we want quick results, like 2 minutes Maggie. We think everything is like that. We don't seem to have the patience to endure. We don't seem to have a patience and endure the time between our effort and possible fruits of those efforts. Everything we wanted then and avirati. Bhranti darshana. We seem to have an unjustified feeling of superiority or inferiority. There's no sense of clarity. I'm all the time thinking I'm either too less or too more. Like I'm not having a clear understanding of who and where one is and what is it that one is, engaging. Alabdha bhumi katva. There is no, there are times when we take up a sense of practice, but we are not able to move beyond that. We seem to be, in a sense, stuck at one level. We go on trying, but there's not much progress that we make. So this has been captured very beautifully in the sense of alabdha bhumikatva and anavasthitatva. Anavasthitatva is, it's almost as if you have come out of alabdha bhumikatva, but the new ground or the new level to which you have gone, that is very unstable. So inevitably you fall back to your old patterns or your old ways of being. So these based on these Nava Antarayas, we prepared a survey. We prepared a survey of questions that we sent out to some of our colleagues, our friends, also some unknown people, mainly youth, and we wanted to keep it to people largely between the age groups of in their 20s and 30s, and we wanted to know what is their purpose, or what is a meaningful life according to them, right? This was one of our main questions. Then the second one was, um, what are some of the obstacles that they believe are coming in the hindrance between their sense of meaningful life and where they are right now, right? So these were the important things we wanted to understand from the question. We were not able to reach out to too many participants for too many people for the questionnaire, but some insights or some key points that came up from the survey was, most individuals, they valued all the layers, or say in in yoga also we come across the sense of panchakosha. So the physical, mental, social, intellectual, all are seeming to be valued by individuals. We didn't specifically add the importance of spiritual well-being or a sense of spiritual pursuit in one's life to make it meaningful. We had very categorically kept a field called other to see if it comes from the respondent themselves. But in none of the cases this came up. So maybe an important observation from that is the absence of a spiritual anchorage or a spiritual pursuit in one's life is a critical, I would say, finding through this research. Then moving towards what are the blocks that they are experiencing, we saw that a greater degree of block was being experienced in Vyadhi, that is wellness, Pramada, that is attentiveness, Alasya, energy, Bhranti Darshana, and Alabdha Bhumikatva. So, and Anavasthitatva. So, most participants were facing higher degree of, hindrances, and they felt, so we had given a scale of 3 options. Option 1 being how they are experiencing each of these blocks at its highest level. And the third scale, or the third portion, was at its lowest level. And somewhere in the middle is where, medium level of the obstacle that they are experiencing in their life. So most people did not go for, Jnana, Samshaya, and Avirati. Most people felt they are mainly experiencing the other 6 form of Antarayas. This questionnaire we have received from, I wouldn't say received, we have been trying to, work with it using Shri Raghu Anantharam ji's work, and also Srimati Lata Satish ji's work. So I would just like to give one example of the questionnaire. So, for example, if to indicate what is the state of Vyadhi. So some of the options we gave was, do I fall ill often and become incapacitated to work? Or am I usually healthy, but my energy levels fluctuate? Or I very rarely fall ill, and because I am always energetic and capable of exerting myself. So this gives a very clear understanding of what is our level of Vyadhi at the current point of time. If I very rarely fall ill, that means you are not experiencing too much Vyadhi. And if you are falling ill often and become incapacitated, that means you are facing Vyadhi. And so accordingly, your practices from a yoga standpoint need to first address your Vyadhi. Only then you can move into deeper and deeper levels of well-being, and then into form of. So that is where we had, yeah. So as we have mentioned, this is a preliminary sense of study. We will need to refine our questionnaire. We will need to refine the way in which we approach more people, and also the results from that. But to wrap up and to kind of complete this short study, Srihari could take us through Hana Upayam.
Yes. So what are some intelligent steps in order to reach the Hanam, the aspirational state? And this is purely a result of our own reflection and practice. And we are open and looking forward to receiving some of your thoughts on these and how we could improve on these as we go ahead. So when we speak of Sangam Tyajati, what we thought of is that the practice of Pratyahara, Yama, and Niyama becomes very, very essential. So only through Pratyahara, Yama, and Niyama, one could experience a freedom from excessive obsession over the world of objects, emotions, and thoughts. So, and also what we also reflected on was the practice of Pratyahara has been given in abundance in our knowledge systems, but has not been explored very much or not given due importance in various other knowledge systems for whatever reasons. And so this becomes a quintessential part of one seeking journey, I would say. And Mahanubhavam Sevate, which is to practice the values and teachings of one's master. And for that, the practice of dharana, to keep the mind firm and think, contemplate on the teachings of the masters, and also the practice of swadhyaya, which is part of
Yoga Sutra.
Yeah.
So an important interpretation of Swadhyaya is to be able to do the chanting and study the texts that are prescribed to us in our specific form of lineage that have been allotted to us. So Swadhyaya is definitely reflection, but also to be able to study what the Purvacharyas have, left for us, what our lineage has left for us.
Yes. So for nirmamo bhavati, to remove a sense of possession or to be free from a sense of possession, we felt aparigraha and ishvara pranidhana.
So both aparigraha is a parigraham. So what that something that somebody else is possessing, we are not taking the benefit of something that somebody else is possessing. And Ishvara Pranidhanam is an attitude of living our life in a sense of surrendering the fruits or surrendering our actions to the larger Ishvara or higher force that we believe in. So whatever benefits or whatever fruits that we receive, we don't enforce it or reinforce a sense of aham bhava through this process. Whatever we receive is basically channelized through a larger cause, and we are just a conduit for that power to flow through. So it does not reinforce the aham bhavam, and so nirmamo bhavati happens.
And so we were able to see, just as you can see, the synergy of both the texts coming together in mapping what are these intelligent steps in order to reach the aspirational state. And so we are on this journey to further discover more of these synergies. Yes. And also do that through our own practice.
Yeah. This is what we were able to do so far. There may be so many other synergies that are possible.
Yes.
But this is what we have done so far. And there are also some processes that we would like to enable through, our initiative Vedic Bond. How can we create spaces, community spaces for youngsters to practice Pratyaharam? Today, youngsters seem to be so much, forced into this idea of consumerism. We are buy one, get five free. There are so many Amazon discounts. For everything, there will be a big flash sale. So even if we don't need, we are forced into buying and purchasing and consuming more. The idea of pratyaharam doesn't even exist. So how can we create a space for youngsters to develop and practice pratyaharam? This may be in any form. It may be in the form of say Ekadashi fasting, or it doesn't have to be physical also. It could be a form of mental pratyaharam as well. Today, not have, I will not allow myself to be drawn to unhealthy forms of social media, uh, interactions. Today, I will not draw myself into himsa, the forms of violent activities or violent forms of being. So that could be a form of pratyaharam. Pratyaharam does not have to be, we giving up everything in our life and sitting maybe in some mountain and, giving up everything. So this is one endeavor that we wish to take up. Another workshop that we wish to take up is Pranava Mantra Japam. So actually, this is also inspired by one sutra in Yoga Sutra, which says that when we practice the pranava mantra in the form uh, by contemplating on its true meaning, which is maybe I could explain its true meaning after some time, but if we do it with its true meaning, keeping it in our mind, then we are able to directly remove all the antarayas that we had discussed some time back. So we would like to curate this workshop through Vedic one. And the third sense of workshop is through Ishvara Dharana. So an important idea in yoga is that the mind automatically takes the attributes of the object of its dharana. So that is why, our Acharya says that um, the form of our dharana has to be extremely perfect. It has to be blemishless. It has to be flawless. And that is the reason why in many of our texts, say it could be a form of Sahasranamam, it could be a form of bhajan, it could be any form. There is so much importance which is given to the description of all the Ishvaras and, Devis, etc. Because when we meditate or we take that, we do dharana, automatically we are able to reach those qualities within ourselves because the mind takes the attributes of that. So towards this end, we are also trying to work on a workshop for, you know, uh, Vishnu Sahasranamam and Lalita Sahasranamam chanting for uh, students and youngsters through Vedic.
And
So
so, through this study, we have observed how the present dominant discourse on well-being seems to be strongly riding on the Western worldview of humans as a rational being capable of making moral judgments and is self-aware, which makes him distinct from other beings in the world. And so the practices promoted through this thought are majorly focused on the cognitive dimension of a being and not considering the deeper spiritual aspects, which again is emphasized in the Indian knowledge systems. And that's where we present, or rather IKS presents a unique possibility of directing one's attention towards a deeper spiritual dimension through a scaffolded effort at the thought, emotional, and bodily levels. And so, having said that, we would like to offer our study and our best at our Acharya's feet, Swami Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda ji and Acharya Krishnamacharya ji. Whatever was good, all the credit has to go towards our Acharyas, and any faults and blemishes is all only our own responsibility. And having said that, these are some of the references that we referred as part of the study. The Narada Bhakti Sutra commentary by Swami Chinmayananda ji, and Yoga Sutra.
So by Shri Desikacharji, he has written the entire commentary based on the Bhashyas and his own personal reflections on Yoga Sutra. We have referred to that. It's on KYM, that is Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram's Vaisharadi. And we have also referred to Shri Raghu Anantharam, open blog that is available through Ritambra Ashram. It has also been edited by Srimati Anita Balasubramanyam ji. So these are some of our main sources of study. Yeah, with that we would like to open out for any thoughts, any reflections, any questions, any ideas that any of you may have. Just like to open.
Namaste, Namratha ji and Hari ji.
Namaste.
Ganapati from Bangalore. Thank you so much for a nice, study on especially the Narada Bhakti Sutra and the Patanjali Yoga Sutra combined and their commonness and connections. Particularly like the way you told that, quoting Sri Nada Muni ji's works, that Patanjali Yoga Sutra is nothing but how to go through the journey towards the end, which is essentially bhakti, like that. So bhakti yoga and the Ashtanga yoga are not diverged from each other. They are not two divergent paths. That's a great point. In that point, only what I wanted to add is, see, we are all, now that we are into IKS world, for us, the pramanas matter a lot. One in terms of how knowledge is generally gained, and more so in today's social circumstances, whatever, let's say you two have worked together and created a certain knowledge. Based out of existing knowledge. But the most important thing is, through what means is the society going to get this? So social platforms, whatever social media based platforms, etc., is one thing. But then at the end of the day, anything that is learned through pratyaksha or through a kind of apta vachana.
Yes.
If you are all close to us in one way or the other because you're all connected, hence I respect what you say, right? So I think we have to generate a lot of means of educating people.
Absolutely.
Content is one thing, but then how am I going to touch the society, get connected with them and share this knowledge? That is, in that sense, one source could be, I mean, if you can also explore that, I'll try. I'm exploring it in my own way.
Okay.
Is a lot of bhakti practices are there. Anushtanas are there.
Yes.
Now, they, if not looked at from a yoga point of view, then a great, Anushtana practice does not necessarily reflect in a good yama niyama practice. Sometimes we see this contrast, right? So how to bring out the elements of Ashtanga yoga in already existing bhakti or existing upasana or Anushtana based practices on which people have a lot of shraddha.
Right.
So because people have shraddha, if you bring out this dimension also, this comes from the same source on which I have so much shraddha, then I will not at least deny this knowledge. So in that sense, one experiment that I have been doing is on Sandhya Vandanam. I have studied a particular book called My Commitment to a Green World, Sandhya Vandanam. I have prepared, book introduction PPT on that. I don't mind sharing that in the group. So that book tries to bring this perspective. Don't look at it as just another Anushtana. So the point that I was trying to make was, if you can make use of existing practices and bring out the yoga, Ashtanga yoga dimension in them, absolutely, that will easily grasp the message rather than trying to give it from other sources. Thank you, and thank you so much for the rendition here of this whole idea.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. This is very insightful. I look forward to your book.
I mean, not my book. It's somebody, elderly person wrote the book. I just gave a book introduction PPT over that.
Okay.
Namaste. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Lives in Mumbai. The author lives in Mumbai.
Okay.
So the author of the book lives in Mumbai. So because you're here around, maybe if you will be interested in interacting with him or availing the book, it's easy for you. He lives in Chembur.
Okay. Maybe I can connect with him. Yes.
Yeah, we can share the contacts and things with you. I definitely felt that this is a very fantastic presentation. Really, a lot of study has gone into it, and I think it's a very valuable research, not just from a research perspective, but also from it is something that needs to be propagated very widely among the youth.
Yes.
We need to find channels. One of the purposes why we want this webinar sort of series to come up is so that people who are related in thought are in position of sort of bringing in some execution of something that can be created out of all this. I really hope that this this webinar video goes wide into the networks. I would also urge Shri Hariji, because he also has his own network, to kindly, once we share the video links, kindly propagate there. We need to find means and ways. I might not be a very capable person to. I have suggested you personally, obviously, that you can try applying for a project under the AICTE and Ministry of Education sort of things, where you can carry out the research in a more deeper and wider sort of a base, and where we will also be able to use the funds to take it to common people. There has to be means to do that. So definitely I would suggest that you should try expanding your own team also. I hope to find such like-minded people from whatever networks we have here, and be able to take this work deeper and wider. That is, I think, very important, considering the audience to which you're addressing this particular idea, this particular content. So my best wishes are with you, and if there is anything I may be able to do in helping you going ahead with this, I'll be glad to do that. So my best wishes to you both. Thank you.
Your very presence is extremely, what can I say? It feels very heartening to be even having this opportunity to share and your presence, ma'am, and also your continuous support, and otherwise we would have not even realized that we are sitting on so much of the studies that our teachers have already done themselves, and so much that we are continuing, but we don't know how to take it forward. So unless we get such mentoring and guidance, it's not just for us. So many others will not have this opportunity of touching this knowledge because we are blocking it, or we are sitting without taking it further. So thank you for this opportunity, ma'am.
So this should not be a case of Alabdha Bhumi. So we need to see how it goes ahead. I mean, I'm sure we will find platforms where we will be able to, including maybe even IIKs. Let us see how this can go forward. Once you both are able to spend time on this, we can discuss that offline. Okay?
Definitely.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Shall
we begin the session?
Shall we conclude with the Shanti Mantra?
Sure, sure.
Would you like to take?
Yeah, sure. Om Purnamadah Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Harihi Om.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Namaste, namaste, namaste.
Namaste.